Welcome. This is a Full Press NHL Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, voice of Full Press Hockey. I have a special guest with me today. He's going to be on here a lot more, doing a lot more work. David, how do you say your last name? Because I forgot to do it off the top of my head.
Calabretta.
David Calabretta is the new member here at Full Press Hockey, and he's going to be doing a lot of work with us for Montreal. He's going to help me out with a ton of these shows, and you know what? I'm just glad to have him here.
Pleasure to be here, Jim. Excited.
We've done a lot of spaces on Twitter. We've talked about a lot of stuff. A lot of the stuff we talk about is right, and people need to go follow us, especially on the Devils and the Canadiens. You really should go follow each other and follow everybody. Go do that. But here's the thing. Big news today. Tristan Jarry going to the AHL. Conditioning stint. Pittsburgh Penguins. We know their goaltending has been a mess since the beginning of the year. It's been a mess for the last couple of years, ever since they signed Jarry to that 5-year extension. You got Joel Blomqvist playing well. Alex Nedeljkovic there. Your thoughts on the move?
It was bound to happen. Earlier than expected, maybe, but it was bound to happen. I think I think I'm in the majority. They shouldn't have signed him long term. They could have traded him. They could have traded him last season. The year before, they had a lot of chances to trade him, and now they're stuck with that contract.
Yeah, they are.
He hasn't been good enough. And look, I think they could have even sent him down. I don't think he would have got claimed.
No, 100%. I agree with that. I think you didn't have to put him down there on a conditioning stand. I think you put him on regular waivers. I don't think anybody's touching him because a lot of the goaltending issues that we've seen around the league are starting to settle. And I don't think anybody wants to touch that contract. So who's going to pick him up? Who's picking him up? Colorado everything seems to be, they're kind of starting to click. You know, San Jose's got their guys, Buffalo. Like, there's no reason to do that. And yet we're going to send him down for a 14-day conditioning stint. He's going to be back there anyway. And I agree with you, right? This was coming. Like, this is not a shock. This should have happened already. Like, in my opinion, I think you should have sent him down already. And I'm in the complete majority. I think a lot of people were when he signed that deal with Pittsburgh. What was all the talk? He's gone. He's leaving. He's not coming back. They're moving in a different direction.
They're going to rebuild.
The whole thing. Instead, they bring him back and sign him to that deal. And there's a reason why the Penguins are where they are and struggling. And look, Joel Blomqvist played great Friday. Stopped, 44 shots, 46 shots out of 50 faced. I mean, Pittsburgh is just structurally flawed, and they have a lot of contracts that you can't move because of the modified or full no trade clauses.
And the goalie market's been addressed already.
Yep.
This summer, trade deadline. So now teams have their goalies, right?
Yep.
I mean, Colorado, you could argue, maybe they'll still lurk around, but I think that's something they'll go for someone with shorter term. Jarry's contract. It's Pittsburgh's problem, and it's a big problem.
It is a big problem.
And there's a lot of problems there.
Oh, there's a lot of problems there. And I mean, look, structurally, this team is not very good. Roster construction, and this goes back, and I know a lot of people want to peg this on Kyle Dubas, but this goes back to before he even got there. This goes back to the Ron Hextall, Brian Burke days. And Brian Burke and Ron Hextall wanted to move this team in a rebuild, and ownership stepped in and said, we want Crosby, Letang, and Malkin all to play together and finish their career. Yet they let Marc-Andre Fleury go to Vegas. Tell me that one.
It's the cost of doing business, man. And I was listening on the hot stove today. This is a big problem. They have unmovable contracts right now. So even if they want to blow it up, they need everyone on board here. So it's going to take a long time for Pittsburgh to get back on their feet here, and it's only the beginning of the slope.
Yeah, it is. It started last year, and I still say I might be in the minority of this one, but I still say you don't move Jake Getzel at the trade deadline.
I didn't like the return.
I hated the return. I didn't like the return. I thought you could have signed him to a short-term deal and have him with Crosby if you knew you were going to keep him. It feels like Crosby's missing that guy on his line.
Yeah,
and it's Jake. And look, they were buddies. Yes, it's a business, but guys are friends. And when you're clicking with a guy, since he's been there, you could tell it's affecting him.
And what I don't get is you're keeping Malkin, you're keeping Letang, you're keeping Crosby. Why is Gensel the guy out? If it was for a good return, sure. I didn't like the return. It was
Michael
underwhelming.
Bunting, and he's been a healthy scratch this year. Tell me how that was a good return. Not to mention, we need another $11 million player, Kyle Dubas. Like, I'm trying not to pile on Kyle Dubas, but it's the same mistake he made in Toronto when there were other areas the team needed to address. You could use that $11 million someplace else.
Yeah, I think when Dubas got hired, ownership had a say. They wanted to still compete, and I think they were pushing for Carlson. But Dubas, a lot of people are going to go at him, but there's only so much he could do at the end of the day. But there's stuff that he should have addressed, and, he's learning. But now they're in a situation where you're going to have to sit down everyone and decide, hey, what are you doing? What are we doing? We're wasting the years of Malkin, Letang, Crosby. The years are starting to come to an end. Pittsburgh, they're not going to compete. It's over.
No, it is over. And I mean, what's the price of getting into the playoffs every year, right? We saw it with Detroit. I mean, Detroit, how long now has it been finally since they missed the playoffs? And, they're finally coming back. Chicago's going through the same thing. Pittsburgh's going through the same thing. Meanwhile, Washington makes subtle moves to kind of retool on the fly with their veterans there, and guys are on LTIR. And I think, Washington's ahead of Pittsburgh right now, in my opinion.
By far. I honestly think, obviously, Washington have some young pieces, though, that are making an impact. McMichael, LaPierre. They added Chikrin. I love that deal, and I told you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're making the right moves in retooling. They're getting guys who could play now and could play in a few years from now. Pittsburgh, Kevin Hayes, Michael Bunting.
Yeah, what are we doing? Yeah, Matt Grzelcyk on the back end. I mean,
Matt Grzelcyk, was that necessary?
I mean, you keep Tristan Jarry. You lost Casey DeSmith. Casey DeSmith's a backup now in Dallas. He was great in Vancouver. Again, just some business decisions. That's part of what's going on in National Hockey. Core too. It's an old core, and they're the oldest team in the league, I believe.
And since we're going at Pittsburgh, I'll give them a good advice. I like what they did with McGorthy. I liked it. I like that deal. That's a good deal, and that's a deal that they should be looking at. Going and get young pieces. Should he be playing in the AHL right now? I don't know. He hasn't looked good in the NHL.
No, he hasn't. Maybe he needs to fine-tune him. Fine-tune him in the AHL.
Why should they put him in this environment right now?
No, you shouldn't.
So I like the move. I like it.
No, me too. I mean, you see it out west, like Anaheim, they're doing their thing with certain guys, certain players, and maybe they blow up one piece over there. Maybe a guy like Zegras kind of moves out of there, and they get the right guys they want in that environment. Because they have a nice group of core right there. I mean, Leo Carlson's there, Mason McTavish, Zellweger. Like, those are the guys that are kind of driving the bus right now. Troy Terry's Trevor Zegras kind of like under the radar. Feels like he's falling. It feels like he needs a change of scenery outside of Anaheim. That's just my opinion. I
think it's coming.
Yeah, I think it's coming
I don't think it's anything imminent right now, but it's coming. I think it's going to come sooner rather than later.
It feels like the situation in Montreal all those years ago with PK and management there when he signed that bridge deal. He wanted that long-term extension. It goes to arbitration. They get the bridge. Then he gets the long-term deal, and then they trade him.
And I don't think, I'm speculating here. I don't think Zegras is happy in Anaheim.
No, I don't think he's happy either because I don't think Verbeek likes him.
The rumors are all summer swirling, Montreal especially. They went another route. They got Demidov. If the Habs didn't get Demidov, they would have probably got Zegras.
Right. I agree with that.
So I think he's going to go soon. And Pittsburgh maybe should make a run at him. Skilled forward.
And do you add Gibson to it?
Why not?
Right?
Why not? If money in, money out.
Right. Send Jarry out west.
Pay a bit more. I don't know. I don't know what to do for Pittsburgh right now. You can't blow it up.
You can't blow it up.
You have to wait till these contracts expire or they want to get moved. So
it's tough. It's tough. Speaking of some teams that kind of blew it up, but didn't really blow it up, but they're rebuilding. We talked about the other day, Calgary, the Calgary Flames, Montreal Canadiens, right? Montreal going through their rebuild with Kent Hughes And Jeff Gordon, and then you're seeing with Craig Conroy's doing out in Calgary, getting the right. We talk about it, the right pieces in when you make these trades, right? You see what they did with Toffoli and Nikita Zadorov out there, and Tanev and Elias Lindholm, and the young talent that's there, and they're playing, and they're probably overachieving right now. But the fact that they're in all these trade rumors for a center, don't worry about it. Stick to your plan. Stick to what you want to do. Don't try to do something that's going to throw off your rebuild.
Yeah, they're in a unique spot, right? Montreal owns their draft pick. Outside the top 10, if they finish 11th last, that's Montreal's pick. And that's what we're looking at right now. They go get that center. He'll get them a few more standings points, but they won't have their draft pick. I don't see them as a playoff team.
Neither do I.
I don't think it's sustainable what they're doing right now. I like what they're doing. It's good for the city, but stick to your plan. That's a big mistake you can make this early into a rebuild, retool.
Right, exactly. And I think I agree with Craig Conroy, though. If you're going to get a controllable asset, okay, fine, give up the first round pick for it. That's fine. But it's got to be the right controllable asset. Like, that's what Tom Fitzgerald did all those years in New Jersey. You get the right controllable asset. But if it's just a guy that's just going to be RFA and he's like, I'm not sure if I want to stay here, don't do it. Like, find somebody in your system that can play second line center or middle sixth. Like, you have the talent. There's players there that can do it and step in and fix it. Don't sell the farm just because you need a second line center right now.
And don't be like Ottawa. The Brinkat, they went to go get him. Did he sign there? No. Played one season in Ottawa. Chikrin went to go get him. Played one season in Ottawa. They didn't want to be there. So pick wisely, choose wisely, or else stay put and let the youth play.
Yeah, I agree. And it's similar to what Montreal, we've seen it. Like we said, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon's doing the things the right way. It's what Jeff Gordon did, and Kent Hughes is following the plan of what he did in New York. Like, everybody's seeing what's going on with the Rangers right now. If you look at all the draft picks that are outside of a couple picks by Drury, that's mostly the team that Jeff Gordon built that's getting to this stage. That's why he went out and got Patrick Laine. Unfortunately, he got hurt early, but that was like the same time frame when Panarin came to the Rangers. They were ready to go, right? And you have the injuries on defense, and now they speculation from Frank Saravalli and Pierre LeBrun saying, they want to add a top 4 defenseman or they want to add a center. We talked about this the other day, and a new article will drop tomorrow morning with David and I's conversation from Twitter Space and what he added. I will stick to this and say this. You don't know what your full lineup is because you have guys missing.
Yep. I'm going to say one thing. Montreal won't jeopardize their future for short-term help. They need a steady guy in the top 4 right now. It's obvious. But teams are going to ask for it's going to be pricey, Jim.
Yep.
It's going to be pricey and can't choose. He's going to ask, doesn't mean he's going to do it. So I think they could still make a deal.
Yes.
But I know they won't jeopardize their future.
No, Calgary, I know.
I'm scared. I'm scared for Calgary. Like we were going, I think they could.
Yes, they could do it. I think Craig Conroy is smart enough not to do it because the deals he's made have been strategic, and what the players he got in return are going to be the future of that team. And like, he'll find a way to get a good player that needs an opportunity. Like I saw with the Igor Sharangovich and Tyler Toffoli trade, the Kevin Ball is part of the Markstrom package. Like, were those guys going to have the opportunities in New Jersey to play where they're playing? No. And like you said, Kent Hughes isn't going to mortgage the future. And I saw everybody talking about this when we talked the other day. Oh, Kovacevic. I'm like, Kovacevic isn't a top 4 defenseman, and he wouldn't have been in Montreal either.
He didn't even play that in Montreal.
He didn't play that in Montreal. So there's that. I know Matheson's taxed. I know Savard's been taxed. I know Lane Hudson. Look, I get it. It's tough, but nobody's trading anybody right now because nobody's 10 games into the season outside of like one team, and it's New Jersey.
Nobody knows what they have right now. A lot of teams are panicking. And clearly, I've never seen so many teams out there on the trade market this early. And it just says a lot of, did we do enough this summer? Montreal did their job.
They did.
Other teams, Montreal's just unlucky. They've been unlucky. That's
the unfortunate part over the last couple of years, because Doc's been hurt. Now you got Patrick Liney's been hurt. You know, the defense is just beat up. We don't know. You don't know what David. Now, would David Reinbacher been playing in the NHL this year? I'm not sure. No, but that's an unfortunate injury because you could have given him a
could have been called up.
Could have been called up. You could maybe given him a look preseason and then into the maybe before 9 games are up. You could have given him a look to see what you got.
Yeah.
And clearly that didn't happen.
Here's the issue now with Reinbacher. It's not going to take another year to develop. It might take 2.
Mm-hmm.
A knee injury is bad. Look at Kirby Dach. Having a hard time adjusting. So are we as loaded on defense as we think? That's what Montreal is going to ask themselves. Could we go get a guy who's not a short-term solution, but a guy who's going to fit timeline of 4 to 5 years? Rasmus Anderson, I like him. I like the fit, but it's going to cost a lot of money, a lot of assets. And I don't think Ken Hughes wants to do it now. He's known for the summer.
He is. And that's what Montreal does. It's either at the draft or after free agency's over. That's when they always make their splash. Is Anderson a free agent at the end of the year? Or is
Rasmus Anderson?
Or does he have one more year left on his deal?
He has this year and next year.
So he's all right. So, I mean, that's actually a good solution. But again, maybe the price comes down next year in the summer if you need to be like, hey, maybe I need a guy for a year.
He's off to a hot start.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Calgary clearly want to add. They're not giving up Rasmus Anderson.
No, and if he continues to play like this, he may stay in Calgary.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either, but
Calgary, but it might happen.
Might happen.
He's a good defenseman. He's good. He's 27. He's not old.
No, I agree.
So
I agree on that. I like that. I like that play though. I mean, look, that's a player that you want to look at. But again, like you said, nobody's really know what they're looking at or what they know because, like you said, Nashville, right? They're looking for center. Chicago's looking for centers, but no one's trading anything. And Nashville's kind of starting to turn it around a little bit. They're playing a lot better than they did at the beginning of the year. That's what happens when you get a win and the monkey's off your back. You start to play a little bit better. Chicago's still in that rebuild. I don't understand why they would want to get somebody and give something up. The pieces that they added in the summer were perfect to get them to the next where they need to go in that rebuild. Next phase. I don't think adding a center or a player like that would help them. They're not going to be a playoff team. That division is way too deep for them to even consider making the playoffs.
Not even to sniff it. No.
Not even sniffing the playoffs. Nashville, another, I could see it. But if Sissons and Stamkos and Marcia still can start to click and, if Tommy Novak takes the next step, all right, then you're okay there too. But again, no one and players and teams that have centers, they're not going to give them up.
I asked you to name who should they go get. You didn't know what to say. No one knows.
No one knows. Like, yeah, it's a center's market, but no names are out there.
Because it's too early.
Exactly. Way too early.
I think like Chicago, they do need a center.
Right.
But that's an off-season problem.
Yeah.
And they have to go for a young guy.
Right.
I don't want to see them trade for, let me just brainstorm, Scott Lawton. Why?
You don't need him.
Go get that young center. Do a Kirby Dach trade, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that. And I mean, look, I said this the other day. I mean, New Jersey definitely needs a center. Like, they need another center behind Nico Hischier. It's quite obvious. When a guy's taking 60% of the faceoffs, there's a problem. Like, that is a problem for New Jersey. And again, it's an off-season problem. You can't do it in the season. You just can't. And they need
everything.
He almost did everything because I continue to see people talk about something I mentioned on Sirius XM in the summer, and they still need a top 6 forward. And I still believe they do need that because they don't have the scoring threat that everybody thought this offense would be.
And they're too small, Jim.
They are too small. Way too small. Easy. Look, the loss of Michael McLeod was huge. Everybody knows it. Like, he was a good center. He came into his own, found his role. They're just too small. They remind me of Montreal. Everybody can beat up their top forwards right now. They just can beat them up.
Yeah, and then they end up getting injured, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
So, look, I think, you brought up a debate, and people might not agree. Hughes might not. You don't see him as a center, and that's 60% of the faceoffs for this year. It's not acceptable, and it's the same thing in Montreal. It's overtime, and we have Dvorak taking our faceoffs. because Suzuki and Dak can't win a faceoff.
That's a problem.
It's a problem. It doesn't look like a problem. No, it's just a faceoff. No, it's a big problem.
It's
Your
a
center
big
can't win
problem.
a faceoff. The Habs are now they're ranked. I don't have the stats with me, but they're in the bottom.
No, I mean, look, like against the Islanders, Keefe threw out, put Heischer in the middle to throw out the power line to him, Hughes, and Bratt. They scored a goal. I mean, when you talk about faceoffs, it's not only penalty kills, not only opening draws, throughout 5-on-5 play, power play. If you win the faceoff off a power play in the offensive zone, you control the puck now in the offensive zone. And then when Montreal gets that power play and they can't win a faceoff, now
puck's already gone.
Puck's already gone, and the defense can set up.
I know, and it's an issue, and it's happening a lot. Winning, like they put even back when he's on the second line, they put Newhook to take his faceoffs. What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Put him on the wing then.
Yeah, exactly. If he's not a center, put him on the wing.
Yeah, so I think, sum it up, center's market this year.
Definitely center's market.
Until the draft, until even the offseason next year. It's going to be a big center's market.
I agree with that. I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Alexis Lafreniere's new contract with the Rangers, 7 years, $7.45 million. For a player from the 2020 NHL draft class. Obviously Quentin Byfield got his deal over the summer as well, but it was a 6-year deal, around like 6.5, something like that. Look, I love the player. I love Lafreniere, what he's doing. He's finally the player everybody thought he was going to be when he was drafted number 1. And I know I've heard the bus talk. I've heard, he's a butt. No, he just didn't develop. He lost 2 years because of COVID. Like, that's huge for a player.
Look, I'm from Quebec. He was talked about since he was a kid. And it's similar to Shane Wright, but Lafreniere, every year he's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Every year he's gotten better. So I don't know, the bus talk, throw it in the garbage. That contract is amazing.
Yes.
Amazing value.
Because what happens if they didn't sign him now and it goes to the summer and he puts up more points than he did last year, more goals than he does last year? Is it 8x8? Probably.
And they still have to sign the goalie.
And
they took care of business.
They took care of one piece of business. They still have Keandre Miller left. And they have the goaltender. But staying on Lafreniere before we get to the goaltender.
Yeah.
I like the signing. I've always liked the player. I love the way he's playing. He's taken the next step. That line with Panarin and Trocheck has been so good for the Rangers. I just wish the kid would get more power play time and not be on the second unit. Because if you put him on the first unit, I think he would even be better as a player, and his point production goes up even more because of what he can do with the puck.
Him and Panarin have a really good chemistry.
And he's
really
elevating Panarin's game too.
Yeah, it's not just Panarin elevating Lafreniere. Lafreniere against the Habs, he looks dominant.
Yes.
He looks comfortable. Confidence a big thing in these kids, first overall. Look at Slavkovsky. I don't want to bring it to Montreal, but he had no confidence.
No.
He found it last year, got him his contract. This year, slow start, but he's still getting points.
It's confidence is key, man. I said it when Jack Hughes was struggling his first season. Yeah. So send him to World Juniors, let him go build the confidence, let him put the puck in the net, get the points, and it'll translate more to the NHL game. He'll be a more confident player with the puck. And you're seeing that with Lafreniere. I mean, we saw what he did in the playoffs last year for the Rangers, the goals that he scored, the passing. Like, he's back and he's gotten bigger and he's using his body, and it's what he did in junior. Like, that's what made him number 1. Like, he's playing so well for the Rangers. It's really nice to see because because being down here in Jersey, like, all you heard was, he's a bust, and you hear the people on there, he's a bust. I'm like, he's not a bust. He's just got to develop. Tim Stützle played a couple of years in Germany against men. He lost time because of COVID. Now you're seeing why he's that player.
And he was drafted playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking like a power forward.
Yeah.
He plays like a power forward. He's not the biggest, but he plays like a big player. And I think Rangers have a gem in him. Honestly, they got really lucky in 2020 getting first overall. Like, obviously Gordon built a nice team, but that was a good luck, man. That was some good luck.
Well, considering the year before they were 2 with Capo Caco, and no one expected him to jump from, I think, what, 16-1 or something. It was
The odds
ridiculous.
It was 8.5%.
Yeah, it was ridiculous what they got to get Lafreniere. But I mean, look, they've put together a good team. They're playing well. Obviously, you know, they got beat up. They still have to learn how to play against a physical team like
Yeah.
the Florida Panthers, who are the standard. Like, they know how to play. Like, that team is really deep, minus their injuries. But you go, and the goaltender played fine, but they just left guys hanging out to dry. And speaking of Igor Shesterkin, you know, he still isn't signed. He still wants to be the highest paid goalie. We talked about it the other day. You know, pay your goalies because they don't grow on trees, and this guy doesn't grow on trees.
No, I'm not worried about him. I think he's gonna get paid sooner rather than later. You know, he's gonna be the highest goalie because he's the best goalie in the NHL.
Yeah.
He's gonna make 11.5 million. And the Rangers are gonna have to swallow their pride and give him that money. Because they know without Shesterkin, there's no New York Rangers.
No.
Let's be honest here.
No. 100%. 100%. The way he's playing, keeping him in every game. And the New York Rangers, the way they are constructed, they rely on their goaltender to win them hockey games. It goes back to the days of Henrik Lundqvist. You can even make the case for Mike Richter, but they were constructed a little bit better when Richter was there. But when Lundqvist was there, they relied on their goaltender to win them games and keep them in games. And it's the same thing with Igor Shesterkin. There's a reason why he was up for the Hart. He didn't win it, but he's won a Vezina. There's a reason why the Rangers have gotten to 2 conference finals, and the series has gone longer than they probably should have. There's a reason why they got past Carolina last year in the second round of the playoffs in Game 6. If he doesn't make the save in the third period, forget it. That's going to 7, and maybe Carolina wins against the Rangers in 7. We don't know, but he makes the save, leads to the Kreider hat trick, and then they take 2 games off of Florida in overtime because of Shesterkin.
He's the key to their cup.
Yes, he is.
He's their key.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still young. That's what scares me.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
only entering his prime. The Rangers are in good hands, man.
Well, and you've seen it in Montreal with Carey Price, right? Like, everybody with, 10.5 million. How can you pay a goalie this, that, and the other? At the time, he was paid like a top 5 player because he was a top 5 player. But then his cap hit goes down because the cap goes up. It's the same thing that's going to be here, whether he gets 11.5, 11.7.
It's going
12.
up 5 mil this summer.
Right. So, okay, his cap percentage is 13 to 15% of the cap. Well, that's what the top players get, but it's going to go down when the cap continuously goes up. So that's what you really need to look at. And I understand, if he's getting 11.7 million or 12 million, he needs to be the best goalie, and all the categories have got to be there. All right, that's fine. But what does he do in the playoffs? That's all I need to know, because Andrei Vasilevsky's reputation came from what he did in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think most goalies come from the playoffs, right?
Right.
Like Adin Hill, he won them the cup. He's a starter now.
Yeah, exactly.
Who expected that?
No.
I didn't.
No, nobody. I mean, this is the goaltending, the days of guys playing great in the regular season, like the Martin Brodeurs and the Patrick Roys and Dominic Hasek's and the list goes on, and they carried it in the playoffs, is long gone. Like, that age of goaltending is gone. If your guy is in the playoffs, it's got to be good in the playoffs. If you're steady in the regular season, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to Price, at the time when he signed his contract, it was 10 million in the salary cap. But like I just said with Shesterkin, there's no Montreal Canadiens or Calgary Price.
Yeah.
We had the best goal in the road in 2014-15.
Yep.
And we didn't do anything about it.
No.
We didn't help our needs. We didn't build a team for him.
No.
And any other team, I'd say, put him on that Devils team, put him on any team during that time, he wins a cup.
Easily wins a cup.
Bergevin, that's one thing I'll never forgive him for.
They didn't build around him.
On him. And the Rangers have the team around him, so they're gonna win the cup soon. The Rangers. It's coming.
Pay your goalie. Pay your goalie
and build a team around them.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk today about about how to put an organization together and build a team the right way and get the right players around your team, because you're seeing that around the league. Like, it does take time. Chemistry does take time with certain teams. You're seeing the Rangers. They've been there together for a long time. Florida, same thing. Like, Nashville's starting to get it together. New Jersey, It's taking some time. Guys have played a lot of hockey, new system, understanding their roles, what their role is, how to play the right way. It's coming. Yes, they've lost 4 in a row, but the signs are there that they're ready to explode. It's like it's right there. Clean up a couple of details, practice a little bit more. It's coming. Just don't overreact because it's so early in the season. You don't know what you have.
Yeah, a lot of fans are imploding. They're going crazy. Not just Devils, everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
It's early, but there's some teams you could see it. It's gonna happen the whole year.
Yeah,
but the Devils are not that team.
No,
they'll be back. They're fine. They're okay.
Yeah, they're
New
fine.
system. They're getting their defense back. They're fine.
One more overreact. I love because the market obviously always loves to overreact. Toronto, it's like, oh, the sky's falling. We got killed by St. Louis. They're playing another Original Six team Saturday night. Boston. A lot of talk about the coach potentially on a hot seat. That's on the GM being not constructing that team properly after missing on 3 first-round picks in 2015.
I'll say one thing, though. Boston fired their coach. Can't use.
Oh, 100%.
It's an evidence. It's happening. Whether he's assistant, even if you put him in that role as assistant coach, he's going to take care of that team.
Yep.
St. Louis is the head coach, but Jim Montgomery is going to take care of that team. He's from Montreal. It's going to happen. I don't think they're going to fire the coach, but I hope they fire him.
Yeah.
Because he's a hell of a coach.
I like Monty. Monty's a hell of a coach. He's done a lot with that team, but that team's poorly constructed in Boston.
Yeah, and anyways, going back to the Leafs.
Yeah.
They're freaking out for no reason.
Yeah.
They just blame Marner after every game. Relax.
Do you think he's going?
I think he's gone. But,
do you think management's like, all right, we're seeing it. This is probably why we shouldn't extend him or we shouldn't give him a contract. I mean, I know you want to wait to the playoffs, but I feel like they should have just blown this thing up. They should have just blew it up. Like, I don't know, because change it.
If they wanted him, they're not going to resign him. Why didn't they trade him this summer?
Yeah, I know.
So I think they're 50-50.
Yeah.
I think they're scared. There's a lot of fear. You don't want to lose him for nothing.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Could they make a trade for another guy who's struggling? Patterson, Vancouver?
Does that solve the problem in Toronto, though?
I don't know, but, I've seen trades like that happen, right?
Yeah.
Two guys who are just, I'm just brainstorming, but even Patterson in Vancouver, what's going on?
Yeah, we don't know.
It's scary to pay these guys. It's very scary.
It is very
Marner,
scary.
I like Marner, personally.
Me too.
I think he gets a lot of slack in Toronto. He's the scapegoat. Every time they lose, it's Marner. No Matthews, no Nylander. Marner.
Well, to be fair, Nylander does step up. He does play.
No, I love
Nylander. To be fair, I love Nylander. I think he's their best playoff performer. But I think
100%.
But I think Matthews needs to get more than he gets because of his playoff performances because they're not great.
No, they're not. And even Marner, they're not great, but it's always him. It's always him.
Oh, it's always him. It's
the
always
hometown
him.
Kid too.
Yeah,
crazy.
It is crazy. One more before we wrap this up. How much do you think Edmonton's regretting not matching at least Philip Broberg?
Oh, I don't know what they were thinking. You look at your defense and you're like, okay, we're not matching this guy for a second-round pick. Oh, my God. I know it's a heavy cap hit, 4.5. It's 2 years only. Evander Kane's been on LTIR. They could have got this done.
Yeah.
All the way, okay. We got Arvidsson. We got Skinner. Okay. Broberg, when Darnell Nurse is playing those heavy minutes, not the I'm on Nurse, but they could use a Broberg right now. He's killing it in St. Louis.
He is. He's real again, but opportunity. Do you think he gets that opportunity in Edmonton?
I think if they match him, they should have gave it, right?
Exactly. I mean, that was the problem though in Edmonton. You talk to people out there, they're like, well, they sent him down. They didn't really give him a plan. They didn't tell all these kids what was going on. But to me, they said they did all the things you were going to do to match at least Broberg, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, when they traded CC, I was like, okay, they're matching. No, They got Ty Anderson, okay. But I don't get it. I don't get it.
This was my thought. I'm like, okay, you're trading CC. You put Kane on LTIR. You have the money to do it. All right, it's great. It's 2 years. Fine. Yes, I know you want to extend Draisaitl. Yeah, I know Bouchard's coming up. That's a next year offseason problem. You need to go win now. It's a year-to-year win now league. Go win.
They had a new GM too, right?
Right.
Bowman.
Right. But his tenure at the end of Detroit was not, or in Chicago was not great. Kenny Holland's reputation at the end of Detroit was not great either.
He doesn't know his players. Maybe he didn't know Broberg well, but there's other people in the organization that should have stepped up and said, hey, let's give him a chance, and they didn't.
Jeff Jackson?
Like, Broberg, he was good in the playoffs.
He was good in the final. Wow. He was great in the final.
He was, you were there, right? You saw it live. Like,
he was their best defenseman in the final.
And he's 23.
Yeah,
he's
like
23
and
years old.
And he was a draft pick of yours, and you just let him go
for a second.
Like,
and Holloway for a third.
Holloway for a third, okay, whatever. But like Broberg.
Well, even him, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, like, Holloway and Broberg are playing well for St. Louis.
But Broberg just won.
And the worst part is they both scored in Toronto, so it makes it like even worse.
Yeah, and I'm excited to watch him tonight. Broberg. He left practice today. I don't know if he's playing tonight.
I have to check that out. We'll see.
But he should be playing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything serious, but it's gonna be exciting. He's playing big minutes, but he's killing it.
Yeah.
It's early, but he's on a roll, man.
Yeah, I can't wait.
On a roll. Edmonton messed up.
I think Edmonton messed that one up. I would have kept Broberg, but any other final thoughts from you before we get out of here? Wrap it up for today on this edition of the Full Press NHL podcast.
I'd say I want a big game from the Habs tonight.
Yeah,
I want a big game from the Habs tonight. I think they've been off since Tuesday. 4-game losing streak. It's time. Tonight's a big test. They have a back-to-back. They play Philly tomorrow. Michkov is going to have a chip on his shoulder. It's going to be an interesting weekend in Montreal.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see Michkov score and Habs fans go crazy. That I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
it's bound to happen.
Yeah, definitely it's going to happen. Because they're going to be like, oh, we need Divinov here now.
Yeah, ASAP. Let's get him. Let's get him.
Let's get him in Montreal right now. But David, so great to have you on board here for Press Hockey, for Pro Press NHL podcast here. So much fun talking hockey with you. Can't wait to do this again and just bringing so much to the table with us and all your work that you do. Follow him along, guys. He's great with the Habs. Check him out.
Appreciate it, Jim. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure having you on. Guys, Full Press NHL podcast. Get it up at Full Press NHL on Twitter, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Jim Biringer here, David Calabretta. My guest today will be my co-host going forward as well. Guys, check it out. We'll be back again next week.
Appreciate it.